T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, welcome everybody. My name is Patrick Rooney, and I am here live. This was put together fairly quickly. This was just an idea I had today, and it just came about very quickly. I been watching what's going on politically. I wouldn't call myself a complete political animal, but I am somebody who is very interested in politics, culture, and what's going on in our country. And I hope you are too. We are in really incredible times. We've never been in times like this ever. And I think, as scary as it is sometimes, I think we're really privileged to be in these times, to be living in these times. So I want to talk today about what I've been watching, this coronation that I've been watching with Kamala Harris. It's really weird. I mean, we've all been watching this stuff together. This woman that we have seen, we've watched her for, 3.5 years, or if you've known her before that. But for 3.5 years, she's been vice president of the United States. And hasn't done anything that almost anybody could name that would be an accomplishment. In fact, she's always been kind of a laughingstock in a sense. I mean, she's got this really weird laugh. She was named the border czar, and then later, I guess, said, "Oh, I wasn't really in charge," but she was in charge of what's going on the border. And meanwhile, we have this turnstile at the border that just, once Trump left, they just took out all of the policies that he had and just left things go crazy. And she's been in charge of that. So I don't know much about what she is for other than abortion. She's obviously very into abortion, as the Democrat Party is in general. I mean, at their convention, they have, they're lining people up and bringing trucks, I guess, and getting people to where they can get easy abortions and things. I mean, this is how far we've degenerated in America. We have a party of abortion now. It's just totally bizarre. So I'm kind of wondering, I'm watching the so-called polls that say that, that this woman is now, or has been, ahead of Trump, or, pulled ahead of him. Looks like that, at least according to the polls, a lot of the polling are these things real? I don't know. There's also things we want to talk about today, other things. So there's a lot of stuff going on. One of them that I wanted to mention along with this is that RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as you may have seen already, has dropped has announced essentially he's dropping out of the race, and he's going to support Trump, which is, from my perspective, I think from the perspective of the average American who wants to see their country protected, is very good news. That being said, there is what I think is really going on. Obviously, the media has brought this woman up and made her look like something that she isn't. They just, in front of our eyes, if you want to talk about what hypnotism is, mass hypnotism is going on in America right now. Massive hypnotism. And in front of our eyes, this woman is supposed to be going from this woman that we all knew that she was. All of a sudden, they just made her over and said, abracadabra, she's a new person now. Everybody loves her, and you're supposed to love her, and just get on board. I hope that isn't really the case with what's going on. But I do think what is going on is the media is at least either trying to push her over the top if they can, or muddy the waters in such a way to make it essentially impossible. If Trump was to win, they make it essentially impossible for him to govern. And I think that's where we're at right now. And that's why I wanted to come on today and talk about this stuff a little bit. So wherever you are, we're happy to have you here. And I want to get into a few things and just kind of show you some things that are going on here. So we'll start with the first clip here, and it's RFK, earlier RFK today, announced the suspension of his campaign.
I want everyone to know that I am not terminating my campaign. I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. I encourage you to vote for me. And if enough of you do vote for me, and neither of the major party candidates win 270 votes, which is quite possible. In fact, today our polling shows them tying at 269 to 269. And I could conceivably still end up in the White House in a contingent election. Three great causes drove me to enter this race in the first place, primarily. And these are the principal causes that persuaded me to leave the Democratic Party and run as an independent. And now to throw my support to President Trump. President Trump says that he will reopen negotiations with President Putin and end the war overnight as soon as he becomes president. This alone would justify my support for his campaign. Last summer, it looked like no candidate was willing to negotiate a quick end to the Ukraine war, to tackle chronic disease epidemic, to protect free speech, our constitutional freedoms, to clean corporate influence out of our government, or to defy the neocons and their agenda of endless military adventurism. But now one of the two candidates has adopted these issues as his own, to the point where he has asked to enlist me in his administration.
Well, there you have it. RFK is out, and it looks like he's going to keep his name on the ballot in a number of states. There may be some technicalities here in terms of getting money, for being a candidate and running and things like that. There's money issues too. So I don't know. I think that's part of why he's not completely dropping out. But he said he's going to take his name off the ballot in battleground states. So ones where I guess it's, where it's going to be really close, or could be really close. So good for him. Good for him for doing the right thing for his country, knowing that things are as tight as they are, or possibly as tight as they are. It's really hard to tell if the polls are accurate enough, but it's close enough. And when Trump was shot, it looked like in that moment when he came back, he put his fist in the air. Once he put his fist in the air, really, and then we saw the Republican convention, it looked like it was Trump. Trump was just going to win, period. And the Democrats better just fold it up and go home. And it's weird how quickly that changed. Somehow they were able to focus on him, demonize Trump, lie about Trump. I mean, just lie about this guy and get away with it. I don't know how. It seems like they should have been able to come back and have better comebacks to show how much these guys are lying. I mean, I'm going to get into a little bit of this here, how much lying is going on. Kamala Harris herself, woman just lie. I mean, I looking at her speech, I'll show it to you in a few minutes here. She just lies. It doesn't matter. She has no fidelity to the truth whatsoever. There's no connection between her and the truth whatsoever. And I think about Christians in this country. If you are a Christian and you're even considering voting for this woman, you're voting for abortion on demand up until birth or beyond, the way the Democrats are. I mean, they've even argued for killing a child after the child is already out of the womb and delivered. Even Obama, when he was, I'll have to bring this video one day to you guys, but even Obama, when he was a state senator in Illinois, he voted, or he wouldn't, I forgot the exact what happened, but I think what happened is he voted to make sure that a woman could end a pregnancy even after a baby would be born alive and the baby could be killed afterwards. That's how crazy and evil these people are. And somehow similar things happened with Obama. I mean, when Obama came out in 2004, he spoke at the Democratic convention. He had this great speech. The guy does speak well, at least when he has a teleprompter in front of him, he does speak well. And so, he was like their star. And then 2008, and everything was about hope and change. The media refused to cover him, just like they're refusing to cover Kamala Harris. Jeremiah Wright Jr., his preacher, a radically anti-white, radical politics, leftist kind of guy. He was associated with bad people all the way. I mean, honestly, from his communist father going forward, he was associated with bad people, and he is a bad person. And the only reason I think that everybody doesn't know at this point that Obama is an evil man is because they just see what they want to see. They will see him as a black man, and if you think through your race, then you will see somebody. You won't see them as they actually are. You won't see the evil inside them, because we're just human beings. Everybody is a human being. We're all spirit. So it's really what's about the spirit inside somebody, not the color of the skin, obviously. That should be obvious, right? I mean, after Dr. King, the civil rights movement, how many people fought and died, for equality among races. And now we don't have that. If you're a certain race, you're privileged, and hatred is directed towards you. And races are used, right, for whatever it is. Kamala Harris was an Indian woman. Most of her background is Indian, right? Her mother is Indian. Her dad is, I think, Jamaican. Communist, by the way. Her dad is a Marxist, communist. So she has very little, much less black in her than she has from India. But because there's no voting block, there's no serious voting block from India, and there is a voting block in the black race, then all of a sudden Kamala Harris became black, as Trump said. It's crazy stuff, guys. It's really, it's really crazy stuff. So I think what the game is afoot, what made me really want to come on today is just to say, primarily, and thank God that JFK Jr. is now on board with Trump, because that's going to definitely help him, maybe a lot. The media is going to not talk about it much, but it will help Trump quite a bit, and it might be enough to put him over. But the problem here is we have elections that are, can I say on this platform, highly questionable at best, okay? Obama, I don't care what anybody says, Obama didn't win the second time. When he went against Romney was ahead even in the polls back then, and the polls were always been skewed against Republicans, and Romney was ahead in those polls and still lost. He couldn't have lost that race. Trump, thank God, somehow got through in 2016. I think the Democrats were sleeping. They weren't asleep in 2020. And anybody that thinks that that was a on the level election has to have their head examined. You have to be so blind or so into what the experts are saying to you, the so-called experts are saying to you. You'd have to be so blind not to see. Everybody, realistically, we saw all we needed to see on election night, right? Trump was winning, you go to bed, you wake up and Trump loses. Right? And all these extra votes that came in that supposedly, I've had people on my show. I had Joe Hoft from the Gateway Pundit on my show. I interviewed him recently. He did 3 books on this, The Steal Part 1, 2, and 3. You can get them on Amazon. You can go to his website. You can go to the Gateway. Well, joehoft.com, I believe it is, Joe Hoft. I wasn't going to talk about it, didn't think about that, but joehoft.com. But you can go to Amazon and look up his books, The Steal Part 1, 2, and 3. He documented a lot of this stuff. 2000 Mules documented a lot of this stuff. This stuff has been well documented. It was also done by, what was that man's name? Dinesh D'Souza. Well, that was the 2000 Mules, but there were other movies too. Other documentaries showed all this. If you want to say, oh, and I have friends that will say, oh, but no judge ruled in favor or of these people that were putting up, cases saying the election was stolen. No judge ruled in their favor. That doesn't prove squat. I mean, there was a case that was going to the Supreme Court, and they said that they didn't have the ability to bring that to trial. They didn't even look at the actual evidence or not. They didn't look at that. They just said they didn't have standing in order to make that case. So therefore, they didn't hear it out. There was a lot of pressure on judges, to not look at the evidence, and they never have looked at the evidence. So, we can argue that all day long, but you got to have a certain amount of common sense at some point to see what's going on, to know that you are being manipulated, to know that the media is lying to you. The media did not vet Barack Obama. They haven't vetted Kamala Harris. She hasn't given an interview yet, even a softball interview. And how many days has it been? I mean, I don't know, 20 plus, 20. How many days has it been since she took over from Joe? And she never earned the nomination anyway. She just was given the nomination. When she ran, last time she ran for president, she hardly got any votes at all. Nobody likes Kamala Harris. The weird thing is nobody really likes her. Her staff hates her. There are reports that she goes around just cursing her staff out on a regular basis. And I believe it. That hackly weird laugh that she has is a cover for a weird person. I'm sorry. But she's not a nice person. She's not somebody that people like. And yet we're supposed to believe that she has all, and actually some people probably is a fair number of people that want to vote for her. She's a black woman. She's not really a black woman. She's got a little bit of black in her, more Indian, right? But she's a woman of color, and she's going to protect our abortion rights, our right to kill our child. Yeah. That's what freedom has come to in America. Again, if you're a heathen type of person who doesn't believe in God, who hates God and hates America, I get you. I understand you. You don't like this country. You hate this country. You want to see it destroyed. You'd have to want to see it destroyed to let Joe do what he's doing and cheer that on, like she has and other people have. So if you're into that kind of thing, you hate the country, you hate America, you hate God, hey, you're going to vote for Kamala Harris. She's your candidate. But if you're a Christian or you're somebody who's like kind of in the middle or something, how do you have a middle here? You need to tell me what reason you're going to vote for her. But primarily, I'm telling you that this is a setup. I'm telling you as a warning tonight. It's mainly why I'm doing this show on short notice. I'm warning you, keep your eyes open, because what they've set up now is a setup to either push her over the top and get her in, because if they can get in one more time, they can pretty much, probably, short of a miracle, they can lock America up. I mean, they've got that kind of control, I think, electorally. I mean, if the people rose up, that's different. And I don't mean violence, but just peaceful protest. If the people rose up in the streets, you can turn countries around very quickly. But Americans are too comfortable, for the most part, it looks like, to rise up at all and show themselves that way. So if they don't, you're going to get what we get, right? We're going to get what we get. But what they're shooting for here is to either push her over the top if they can, and if, again, God help us if they do. But if they don't, to muddy the waters so bad, to demonize Donald Trump so much that if he was somehow to get in, that he wouldn't be able to effectively govern. That I know that's their strategy. That's the way these leftists work around the world. That's what they did to Netanyahu in Israel. When he won re-election recently, he got back in power again. He wanted to reform the country. He wanted to reform the justice system in Israel. And what the left did was they pushed these protests in the streets, and they pushed it to a point where they got, I guess, a certain number of people to believe them in Israel. And they made it, from what I understand, pretty dang near impossible for Netanyahu to push through the justice reforms that he wanted to do. And kind of the same thing already happened a little bit with Trump in his first term. He had to spend so much time fighting off BS, lies. I mean, the whole Russian collusion thing being made up. I mean, made up and put in there by Hillary Clinton and her people. The person who's running against him is one that put up this fake stuff. It gets proven to be fake later. Nothing happens to anybody. No, nothing ever does happen to these people at the top. Nothing ever happens to Obama. Obama helped destroy our country. He's in the process. He damn near destroyed our country when he was there. He did his best and he put things in motion that seemed to slowly destroy us. The race baiting, the racial animus that's in this country was never like this until Obama got in there. There's things that he put in the judges. He put a lot of judges in. So he put a lot of left-wing judges in, but he did a lot of things behind the scenes. And I just think the only thing I can think of in his case is when you're that evil, you've got the devil working for you. And a devil is working hard for Barack Obama. All right, I'm going to show you guys some clips too, to kind of prove points and show you what I'm doing. But just before I get there, and I'm going to go to your comments too, I just wanted to warn you guys, because again, they're either pushing her in, that would be horrible, because I think they would get a lock on this country, especially the electoral process that we may never recover from. And I don't know why people think things can't happen to a society. I mean, if you just read the Bible and you see what happened to the Jews, read the book of Isaiah or Ezekiel or any of these Old Testament books. Jerusalem was destroyed, and they had the greatest, culture, right, in the world, and it was destroyed because they stopped following God, right? The source of their strength, the source of all the good things that happened to them, they just kind of like spit in God's face, and God's like, well, you're going to lose your society. It's going to be so bad that, I mean, it can get so bad. You don't know how bad people think it can only get so bad. It can get really bad. I mean, there is abject slavery. There is hunger. Anybody that's been in a war, you could laying siege to a city, you cut off their food, their water, whatever. And literally God through the prophets was saying, hey, it's going to be so bad, you're going to have mothers eating their children. That kind of bad. Okay. So, and that's the way it got. That's the way it got in Jerusalem, in Israel at the time. So yes, it can get very bad, get a lot worse than it is now, or we can do better. We can come back to God. We can get sensible, and we can have a beautiful country here. America theoretically could be better than it's ever been, but we have to stop. We have to stop killing babies inside the womb to start with. We have to close the borders down. We have to throw out the bad people that have come into the country. A lot of them want to kill us. We got to do right. We got to do right. We have to come together as Americans. All right, let me check on you guys a little bit. Chuck Williams, hey, have hope. Well, Chuck, I do have hope in God. I have hope in Jesus as our Savior. I have hope. I always have hope that things will be better, but we don't know. Again, societies have gone down. We wouldn't be the first one, okay? And we would fall a long way, and we have already fallen a long way. Can we get better? Absolutely. I'm doing whatever I know to help out those who are bettering our country spiritually, physically, and in all kinds of ways. Absolutely. I mean, I want the best for my country. Absolutely. I want the best for my country, and I hope for the best for my country. But I am warning you. I mean, I'm not a prophet. Believe me, I'm not a prophet. But what did the prophets come for? They came to warn the people. They came to warn them so that hopefully there would be a turnaround. And if there's enough of a turnaround, yeah, you can do. And probably, honestly, with what's just happened today with JFK Jr. coming on board and supporting Trump, theoretically, that should be enough to push Trump over the top anyway, if there was a reasonably fair election. The problem is we haven't done the work to secure our elections. We haven't done the hard work. It takes some effort. You can't just say, okay, let's have some fair elections. Let's everyone play by the rules. Leftist people don't play by the rules. They are for power, absolute power, and that's it. I mean, they are not there to play nice. They are there to take over by force. Look at what any civilization's done that's been evil like that. Hitler came in. People joked, the guy thought he was a joke at first. Didn't take him seriously. Well, they took him seriously later because his people were marching through the streets of Germany. I guess it was Munich. I think it was Munich, but I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on Germany. But they were marching through the streets with torches and these swastika flags and stuff. And they acted like they were in power before they were even in power. That's what Obama did. When Obama, before he even went into power, he started walking around with this, he started giving speeches with this Office of the President goofy seal on it. And he was giving speeches as if he was the president already. And George Bush W. let him do this. We've had so many weak Republicans. That's what was nice about Trump. At least he came in and he had some gusto. He was willing to fight. And you have to be willing to fight, hopefully in the right way, right? Fight with love in your heart, but you still fight. Anyway, thank you for that, Chuck. Sticks base. I'm probably the only person that pronounces Sticks base correctly because I know that he's into drumming and stuff. So Sticks bass. I used to think it was Sticks bass. If you read it, it seems like, Sticks bass is here. No, Sticks bass is here. So hi, Sticks bass. He says, I heard people ate their babies under communism, which is what Dems are driving us to. Well, they're driving us, first of all, to give our babies up, right? And killing babies seems to be in vogue these days. Unbelievable. We're never going to, I don't think we're ever going to come back, even if we got Trump, let's say, come back in. But if we continue, unless we have a serious wake up spiritually and stop killing the babies to start with, America can never really be blessed that way. We just can't be. Anyway, I'm going to show you guys a few other things, and you guys tell me what you think. But here is RFK Jr. suspending his. Wait a minute, I already talked about it. I'm like, oh yeah, well, I got a short memory, huh? No, I'm not going to show that one again. I'm going to show you a little bit of Kamala's speech, her acceptance speech at the DNC, which would have been last night. And I'm going to tell you, I don't watch this kind of stuff live. I just can't stomach it. It's just so. How do you watch something like that when someone lies the way this woman is a liar? And I'll show you. I'll talk to you about this. I mean, it's obvious to prove that she's a liar. I don't know how anyone is going for this stuff, but if someone tells you, I guess, that they're going to give you, if you want to, they're going to give you whatever abortions you want, they're going to give you free health care. First of all, what these people do, they destroy the free enterprise system to start with, which creates abundance, which makes healthcare amazing. Can you imagine having free enterprise in the healthcare world where you could go to any doctor you want? The prices were put out there on a menu, so to speak, like you're going to In-N-Out Burger or something. And there's real competition, and there's people who love to do what they're doing, and they're not doing it because of getting an insurance payoff or getting some COVID payoff or something. They're doing it because they love to do it. And you don't have, again, the insurance thing has really just jacked everything up. Because of insurance, people want insurance. We're almost forced into a position where we have to take insurance, but it's because they've destroyed the system to begin with. They've destroyed the free enterprise system of medicine. It's like housing. They destroy the housing market and then want to give you a free house. It's not free. It's paid for by taxpayers. It's not free. There's no free lunch. What's the old saying, right? Margaret Thatcher, socialism is a great idea until you run out of other people's money, something like that. Somebody pays for everything. But if you have lived in a culture where something is given to you your whole life, something is just given to you, you expect something, then you start expecting something to be given to you, and you hate your country, then you expect your country to give something to you, which is really just your countryman or woman giving something to you because it's coming out of somebody's pocket. All right. So I'm going to show you Kamala Harris, just a little bit of her. That's what I'll usually do. I won't watch a whole speech. I'll just watch a little thing here and there and just kind of get an idea of what was said or whatever. But here's Kamala talking about Trump here. So just listen to what she says and listen to, do you think this is truthful, what she's saying? Do you believe her in any kind of way? Here we go.
Fellow Americans, this election is not only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation. In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Consider not only the chaos and calamity when he was in office, but also the gravity of what has happened since he lost the last election. Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol, where they assaulted law enforcement officers. When politicians in his own party begged him to call off the mob and send help, he did the opposite. He fanned the flames. And now, for an entirely different set of crimes, he was found guilty of fraud by a jury of everyday Americans and separately found liable for committing sexual abuse. And consider what he intends to do if we give him power again. Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy. His explicit intent to deploy our active duty military against our own citizens. Consider the power he will have, especially after the United States Supreme Court just ruled that he would be immune from criminal prosecution. Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails.
Yeah, I know I probably lose some viewers when she gets. Is this like nails on a chalkboard to anybody listening to this woman? Fine. If you're for her and you think she's wonderful and you think you believe in this politics of joy kind of crap that they're throwing out in the media about her, where's the joy in this woman? The joy is when she gets sent packing, hopefully, God willing. That's the joy. So just to unpack this stuff a little bit, it's weird that somebody can lie and lie by omission, a lot of it. That's how the media lies. They're smart enough not to lie in your face and say things that are so obviously wrong that they can get sued, right? They don't want to do that. But they will leave stuff out that you really need to know to get the whole picture. So if you only hear this side of the story, you don't really hear the other side, you only hear one side of the story, then everything they say sounds peachy, doesn't it? These are really horrible human beings, the media. And the media is responsible. Well, we are responsible ultimately, but the media is responsible for propping this woman up into something wonderful when she's nothing wonderful. But just a few things. I just jotted these things down just so I would remember a few of the things she said, just so we're clear. But when somebody can say something and get away with it, January 6th was 2021, right? That's 3.5 years ago. Okay. 3.5 years ago, January 6th happened. Now, I can understand for a while because people just got the media side of it and all that. But once the information came out, I mean, Tucker Carlson did stuff on this. Other people got a hold of these videos and put out information. If you don't know somewhat of the real story on January 6th, then you are woefully uninformed. You have to know what's going on and don't accept. How can you accept what these people say? How can you just accept it? Okay, first she said this is the most important election, blah, blah, blah. It is. That's the only thing she said that was true. Not for the reason she says. It's important that people like her are exposed and never get anywhere near the Oval Office. That's what's important. And it is hugely important. Again, like I said, if we lose that election, the election coming up, they can really cement themselves into power and be very similar to Venezuela at a certain point, where the head of Venezuela, I forgot the president's name now, is it Maduro, I think. According to the exit polls, this guy lost 2-1. He got creamed in the election. I think Trump easily won the last time, but so it's not that far off. He got creamed in the election, according to the exit polls. And then they said he won. And I haven't followed it as close as I should, but I don't remember seeing any stories saying that they overturned the result of that election at this point, which is really scary. But somebody can tell me if they want to give me an update on that, but I don't have the update on that. So she says it's the most important election. Okay, you're right about that for the wrong reason. She says that Trump caused chaos, right? Chaos and calamity in this country. Think about it. Where's the chaos that he created? Because his mean tweets, is that the chaos that you're talking about, Kamala? I think chaos is when you have the border open and anybody and anyone related to them, not related to them, God knows who, from every country you can imagine, including countries that hate us, not just countries below our border, but other countries, military-aged men from China coming in and so forth. It's unbelievable. We're here right now because of the grace of God. That's why we're still here. We're not here because of Kamala and Joe. If it was up to them and Obama, who's over them, and I think pulling the strings for the most part, other than the devil above all of them, yeah, it's not them. They have not saved our country. They are trying to destroy it. Even I forgot the name of that, but during the 60s, there was a famous Cloward and Piven strategy. The Cloward and Piven strategy. Where there was a professor at the University of Columbia, I believe, and he had the strategy that if you just overwhelm the capitalist system, all of the things that we have here, the medical system, all the systems that we have. You just overwhelm those systems, you will eventually break those systems down, and then you can kind of start over again and just kind of reinvent them in your own kind of way. And that's exactly what Obama tried to do. That's what Joe and Kamala have been doing. These people are absolutely evil, but they're also insane, because on some level, they would have to know that they are hurting their own country, that they are making their own country less safe, just like Gavin Newsom in California and people like that. He knows it. He has to know on some level he's making his state less safe. He's making everything around him less safe. But I think that they think that they are so cut off, and maybe some of these people are, that they don't have to worry about those kind of things. As long as they would rather be in power in a hellhole. There's that old famous quote about the palaces of kings being built on the ruins of paradise, right? They'd rather like be in a fiefdom, even if it's just crap underneath them, a fiefdom of crap, than to be, I guess, just a regular person in a beautiful situation. It's very, very weird. Anyway, so Kamala says most important election. Yes. Trump is causing chaos and calamity when really they're doing that. Everything is kind of reversed with these people. Evil is like a reversed system. Everything is like projection. It's like whatever they say about you or the person that they're running against is usually about them. And they give away a lot by what they talk about. They also brag about it quite a bit. She said that Trump sent a armed mob to the Capitol on January 6th. There weren't armed people. There may have been a few armed people, but I don't know. I mean, they weren't out there like, yahooing like the Wild West. There weren't any people brandishing guns. Capitol Police had guns. The people weren't brandishing guns. Most of them were sightseers through the Capitol, actually. Those people that did violent things should be put away. Okay, no problem. You did something wrong, and it was, you instigated it, you did it. Okay, but what I saw, very little of that. And the violence that I did, some of the violence I did see, the so-called violence, were people who were being pushed by Capitol Police, and they were fighting back. But yeah, whoever did wrong should be in jail. But you've got people in jail for like ridiculous charges. I mean, all sorts of people. AmericanGulag.org, I believe it is, or AmericanGulag.com. I forgot I wasn't expecting to talk about this so much. Is a website you can go to. For instance, you can go to thegatewaypundit.com, thegatewaypundit.com, and you can see all sorts of stories. Rosalind Boyland, I believe, was one woman that was killed. They talk about this armed mob and assaulting officers. The only people that were killed in that situation that day were people who were protesting. Other people were not. They made up things that weren't true. That they said that these the police and different people were killed that day. They were not. There were people that died later, but it was like removed from the situation at hand. The only people that were killed that day were protesters, okay, including Rosalind Boyland and others. And people were there to protest the election being stolen, obviously in front of our eyes. And Trump asked the people to come. People showed up and protested. And for the most part, that's what it was. The vast majority of the people there were regular American people who came and showed up. And the idea was that they would show up so there would be a presence to say to the people who were deciding on the election, which included Pence at the time and other people at the Capitol, they were deciding were going to check off and say the election was okay, or were they going to look at a lot of the evidence there and say, wait a minute, no. We got to check some of the stuff out. We can't just check off this election and say it was okay. That's what that day was all about. That's why Trump brought people there, to be a presence and say, look, we're watching you. You guys are at the Capitol. We're watching you guys vote. But they set the situation up. It was basically a honeypot. And what they made this thing and kind of, what's the word, entrapped a number of people. And they got what they wanted out of this, which was they got the images of violence and they got all those kinds of things. They used that as a pretext to not go through with the challenge to the vote, whether the vote was kosher or not. They use that as a pretext, and they use it quite well. They have all this violence and stuff, so we can't even really do this. We better just check this election off and move it forward, move it on down the road. And they did it, and they got away with it. Nancy Pelosi didn't send the people they should have. They blamed that on Trump, and they didn't send the backup. They didn't send the National Guard and all those people. It was a setup. But the weird thing is 3 years later, we have the same lies over and over and over. And they still are able to get away with it, at least to some extent. These people are criminal. They're awful people. All right. I'm starting to rant a little bit here. I'll get you Stickspace is going crazy. There is no way I can read all your stuff, Stickspace. I'm sorry. I'll try to read a little bit of it, but man, you're going crazy here. I'll do what I can. Okay, armed mob. He fanned the flames. He didn't fan the flames. He got people there to stand up and watch what was going on with the election count, whether they're going to pass it, which they did. Then she said, "Oh, Trump is guilty of from a jury of everyday Americans." Well, Trump may be guilty from a jury of everyday Americans, but it was obviously an unfair trial. The trials that they've been doing against Trump, they put it in New York City, totally biased. They've really biased people in New York City against Trump. They should be building statues to this guy pretty much. I mean, this guy did so much for the city of New York economically. He built the skating rink in like no time whatsoever when the project was floundering for years. He gave to charities. I mean, he did so much, and the people have such short memories. It's amazing what you can do to brainwash people. She said, Kamala said Trump set free violent extremists. Which isn't true. She said that, the last thing I want to say here, Kamala said that Trump is going to jail journalists and political opponents. Well, first of all, Julian Assange got jailed, but it wasn't by Trump, and a lot of other people too. I don't know what journalists she's talking about. That Trump is going to jail. Like, it must be a projection thing again, and something that they're talking about what they're going to do to us. I mean, it's really weird. Political opponents. Well, if political opponents are doing that, they should be investigated. If political opponents are like Joe Biden, who's been pretty much proven is a foreign agent who's sitting in the office of president. He's a foreign agent of other powers. Ukraine, China. I mean, there's a lot of money that's been pushed to his family. And the big guy gets 10%, right? Joe Biden speaking of Joe Biden, I don't wish him a bad situation, what he's going through. Yeah, I'm not wishing ill for the man, but the fact of the matter is he's an evil guy who has always been a bad person, never done anything good for America. And he's been senator for years and years and years. I will never forget how he went after Clarence Thomas, who was up for Justice Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court, when he was being confirmed. And Joe Biden was in charge of that whole process. It was basically a kangaroo court, a high-tech lynching, as Clarence Thomas said. I'll never forget what he did. He's always been a bad guy. Now he just doesn't have the same capacity to spread his evil as effectively as he once did. That's really the only difference. Okay, Stickspace, sorry. I'm just going to kind of cherry pick here and there because you've thrown so many things out here. I can't possibly read anywhere near what you've put out here, but yeah. Oh, he said the only chaos was from the leftist psychos encouraged by Dem politicians. Leftist people in general, I'm sure there's some nice people who are on the left. There always are some exceptions to the rule. But man, in general, people on the left I've seen a lot of vicious angry people on the left, very bad people, very angry people, and people who just want to strike out and burn stuff down. They have no desire to make a better country. They don't love the country to begin with, and they certainly don't want to improve it. All I can do is pray for them, and I hope that they overcome their hatred towards this country and actually see with real eyes all the blessings they have to live in the United States of America. So that's true of Stick Space. He said the peeps who started the violence were Antifa and FBI pretending to be Trumpers, and that's likely true. Likely a lot of that's true. But it's weird that how come we all don't know the truth by now is really amazing. All right, he said some nice things about Trump too. You wanted Trump making sure everything stayed peaceful. Where'd he go? Oh, it wasn't Trump. They're making sure everything stayed peaceful. Where'd he go? I'm not sure what they're talking about exactly, but Trump already showed grace to Hillary. Yeah, he did. He didn't. Yeah. Speaking of jailing your opponents, he said, "Oh, she should be in jail," which she should. I mean, literally, a lot of these people should be in jail, and they're afraid of being in jail, so they're therefore going out and saying he's going to jail his political opponents. Well, didn't they try to jail him? Hello, right? I mean, what are they talking about here? It's very, very crazy. All right, let me show you the next one. This is Trump now responding to Kamala, what Kamala's, Kamala's speech and some of the stuff Trump had to say in response.
Shortly after Kamala Harris accepted that Democratic nomination, her November opponent, Donald Trump, went on the attack.
She is a horrible, horrible person to run this country. We won't have a country.
Trump focusing in on immigration policies as an area to hammer away at Harris. This after he spent Thursday in Arizona down on the border. It makes sense that he wants to keep the conversation on the border. An ABC Washington Post poll shows that's an issue where he has an advantage with voters, along with the economy and crime and safety. Harris more popular on the topics of health care and abortion. Trump shrugged off recent numbers that show illegal crossings are in decline and vowed to do more.
You vote, we will seal the border, stop the invasion, and launch the largest deportation effort in American history.
Now, something else the Trump camp is watching. Robert F. Kennedy's withdrawing his attempt to get on the ballot in Arizona, fueling thoughts that could signal his exit from the race. And reports are he would endorse Trump. Trump has said that would be an honor to receive the endorsement. And there is a special guest planned to make an appearance at Trump's campaign stop in Glendale later today. Kennedy also in Arizona, and the speculation is he could be that guest.
Boy, 75 days to go, and I feel like things are only getting hotter, Chris.
You got that right. So, RFK Jr., I think, appeared with Trump in Glendale, Arizona today. So that is very cool. It said that the only thing that Kamala was ahead of Trump in with the people were healthcare by 7%. And again, as I said earlier, healthcare has been so socialized. And people are pretty much forced to go into some type of socialized healthcare because healthcare has gotten so ridiculously expensive. It's such a cash cow for whoever, insurance companies, doctors, pharmacy people, whoever they are. And there's a lot of great people in healthcare. I've seen them. There are great people in healthcare, and healthcare has a purpose. Even the westernized healthcare, which has a lot of flaws in it, is great for certain types of things, such as emergency care and things like that. It's fantastic. Nevertheless, the system itself is very corrupt, and the answer is not to go more socialized. The answer is to start bringing freedom back and making the costs go down so we can afford healthcare again, getting the competition up, right? Getting the insurances more out of the way. Everything insurance I'm not saying people should never use insurance, but everything insurance is involved in makes the price go up. And it's done that astronomically in healthcare. So that's not the answer, but we're in the United States of America. It's supposed to be the freest country on earth, which I don't think so anymore. But I don't think too many countries are free at all. But if you want to why go in the way of socialism when socialism has failed in every single country it's ever been tried? And sometimes if it goes to the extreme, communism, which these people, in my opinion, are communists, they just don't say it. Communism ends in deaths, usually of millions. Good luck with that. So people are really not educated in America, unfortunately, well anymore. And they're in the public government school system. Even probably the best government schools are probably not that great. Yeah, so the education level, unfortunately, is very bad. And then people are educated. The family structure is broken. The fathers are gone from the home. Democrats never want to talk about that. That's a major problem. I heard Charlie Kirk talking about that last night on a podcast, how the Black community has been almost destroyed because of the lack of fathers in the home. They don't want to solve the problem. Obama talked about that a little bit in the beginning, then he stopped talking about it. If you stop the problem, if you repair the problem, if you bring the fathers back in the homes, right? If you stop killing the babies, you start doing the right thing, you believe in God, give God the credit, you start having the blessings that we used to have, that happened in America way back when. But people don't know that because we are on social media. Well, this is social media here, but hopefully this is doing something a little bit different. But people are doing things, and they have their heroes and their heroines who are, a lot of these are just bad people, right? They're immoral people, and they're leading unfortunately, a lot of people, especially the young people, off the cliff. Young people are so smart. I've said this many times, and there's so much potential, but they've got to see that they're being lied to. The Democrat Party, especially, the Republican Party, I'm not saying it's the greatest, but you know, we have to choose. We have to work with what we can. These are the available choices. And the Democrat Party is disgusting at this point. Compared to my parents' day, it's night and day. I mean, they had patriotism back then. They protected life back then. They were for the family back then. They were for the so-called little guy back then. They weren't right on a lot of stuff, but the difference is night and day. I mean, what's the difference between John F. Kennedy and Kamala Harris? You probably would laugh out loud like Kamala Harris just by thinking about, well, there's a difference between Kamala Harris, John F. Kennedy and Kamala Harris. That's how far we've come. John F. Kennedy to Kamala Harris. All right, we got more comments. Whoa, man. Wow, you got a lot. You got a lot. Megaphone. I don't know what that means. All right, I'm going to show you maybe a couple more. And now this is the two things. So the two things that the public likes Harris on: 7% more people like her on healthcare, socialized medicine, and then 12% more on abortion. Now, why? It's kind of weird because all that Trump did when Roe v. Wade got overturned, all they did was return the situation to the states. Now, I'm not an expert on this. I would think if abortion, I had an argument kind of with a friend of mine the other night about this, but the Declaration of Independence says that we have a right to life. There was a right to life movement, right? The anti-abortion movement has been called the right to life movement because we have a right to life. We don't need any special legislation for that, to protect ourselves to be born. Any baby should be allowed to be born. Now, you can say there's certain exceptions. For some people say, well, if the woman is raped or there's incest or something like that, those can be, I guess, debated. People can debate those either way. I would say, as much as possible, we should have life in as many circumstances as possible. We should opt for life almost in every situation that we can. Now, if you have the life of the woman, the mother, at stake, yeah, it's understandable that the baby, in order to keep the mother alive, the baby may have to die. That happens probably in a very, very minuscule amount of times, very small percentage. So it's kind of one of those, what do they call, straw man arguments, I guess you'd say, where something is argued about but doesn't really happen much in real life. So yeah, but people, 12% like her better on abortion. All Trump is saying about abortion, we could argue, you could make a good argument, I think, that abortion should have been overturned, basically. Overturned flat out. But all Trump and a lot of Republicans are saying, their policy at this point is return it to the states. That's what Roe v. Wade ended up doing, rightly or wrongly. It returned it to the states. So why is that such an extreme position to allow each state to decide, the people who are the government, to decide whether they're going to allow abortion and in what, ranges, up to how many weeks of pregnancy and so forth? What is wrong with that as a policy? Please tell me. And if you're one of those 12% more people who favor her, then you're only saying that you want abortion pretty much legal up until whenever the mother chooses. This is sick. This is barbarism, absolute barbarism. I know I talked about abortion a lot today, but it's a major issue. So all Trump is saying is bring it back to the states. That's all Roe v. Wade said. What is extreme about that? Nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So please think about this, people. I don't know who they're polling. Are you thinking when you're answering these polls? I was calling Dems Democrats since Reagan was elected. Yeah, it's not the Democratic Party. To me, it's called the Democrat Party, the Democrats. And unfortunately, they become Demorats mostly. And I'm sure there's some people who are Democrats out there who are decent people. But I tell you, anybody who's for what the National Democrats are doing, you've got to see what they are for and wake up. Especially, I talk to Christians, especially Christians, guys. Oh, excuse me. No cough button here. No water. I forgot the water today. I'm stuck without water or a cough button. Okay, here's Tulsi Gabbard. Gabbard? How do you say her last name? Tulsi Gabbard. She was in the debate when they were running for president for Democrat this last time around with Kamala. Kamala was a prosecutor, and from what I read about Kamala, she's a power-hungry type of prosecutor who just kind of like gleefully goes after people. She went after, she had a thing back when she was in San Francisco as the DA, and she was going after parents, kids who were truant in school. And if there was a problem with them, she was going after the parents. And I don't even know if that's such a bad thing if you believe in the public school system that kids should be going to public school. But pushing that aside for a minute, there was an argument, about she's saying that they should go to the parents should be at fault if the kid is truant from school. But the way she talked about it was kind of weird because she laughed about it like, oh, she wanted to jail parents. She literally wanted to put the parents in jail, but she was like laughing about it. She's a very strange person, and she's calling JD Vance weird, And Tim, I should have gotten the video of Tim Walz dancing around like a fruitcake. Very strange kind of guy, but they're calling JD Vance weird. It's really weird. It's very weird projection. Anyway, Tulsi Gabbard is going after Kamala Harris's record, okay, as prosecutor.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. That would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Yeah. I don't know Tulsi Gabbard. I'm assuming she is a Democrat, so I'm assuming that she is pro-abortion. Which is not good, but assuming that. But other than that, she's a very sensible person. I mean, I would rather have her 10 times over Kamala Harris in any case. Anyway, hopefully I made the point. Just to one more time kind of sum it up, and we're going to get out of here. But just think about what you're doing. again, I said, if you're a Christian, think about what you're doing. If you're not a Christian, it doesn't matter. I mean, just anybody of common sense, please think about what you're doing. If you have any inkling of voting for these people who have been in power for 3.5 years, Kamala Harris has been the vice president. So if you think she has no power, if she was so against the turnstile border that we have and the inflation and all the insanity, all the violence, all the anti-cop stuff, if she was against any of this stuff, why didn't she pipe up? Why didn't she do something about it? But now you believe that she's going to do the opposite of what she's been doing for 3.5 years. She's going to do the opposite of what she's been doing in her career. If you believe that stuff, I just challenge you to think about where you're getting your information, probably the mainstream media. Do you have any other sources? And are you doing any kind of challenge? They're not going to challenge her. They're not going to challenge her all the way to the election. They do the same thing. They push her in just like they pushed Obama in. No challenge whatsoever. So wake up to that and just be ready, folks, too. Be ready for gird your loins, as they used to say in the Bible, right? Gird your loins, because no matter what happens, and I hope to God, honestly, I hope to God personally that Trump gets in. Trump has his faults. He got a lot of them, but there is no comparison when you're talking about having a country of any kind. I mean, when it's such an easy decision, when people over here are actively destroying your country, okay, actively taking it apart. And this man over here is, at least in many ways, doing the opposite, trying to protect the country. Yes, he's got a lot of faults. Yes, there's some ones that are huge, but the choice is between two. Now there's not even a third choice. RFK Jr. is gone. You have two choices. That's it. Well, you have a third choice. You can not vote. But if you have a not vote, why aren't you voting for Trump? If you got sense, and at least make sure he wins. So you're kind of half a vote. You're not voting. You're kind of like, what does the matter with you, really, if you're not voting? I don't care what your excuse is. You know that Trump is better, probably by 100 times, than Kamala, but you're not going to vote for him, even because you don't like him and because you said he did bad things. Yeah, he did some things that I don't like at all. Okay, I'm still going to vote for him 100%, not 50% or 51%, even 100%. And I'm going to tell people I know, talk to them about, voting for Trump. And I hope that you all do that. And even if Trump wins, though, again, even if he wins, God, hopefully he does, but even if he gets in, it's not like, oh, everything's okay again. We got America back. Yeah, it's a big sigh of relief. But just remember, the Democrats have been set up now. They have been set up to, especially from the left, they've been set up to riot, protest in the street. I don't mean protest in the streets. I mean riot. I mean vandalism. I mean what you've seen them do before, right? In the George Floyd situation. And it'd probably be a lot worse. So expect that. Expect that they are going to put the junk in the wheels to make sure the wheels don't turn as much as they can. They're going to try to stop Trump from effectively governing once he gets in, if he does get in. And there's going to be a lot of mess out there. And because they've made her look popular, if they lose, it would have been probably a blowout election. And it's something that would have been very difficult for them to cheat on. But now, with as popular as they've made her be and as much as they protected her, they put it into a situation where, okay, it could be plausible that she could win if they cheat enough, right? And so therefore, they're getting their people worked up that much more. And they're calling this guy every name in the book, Trump, even after he was shot. They were responsible in a lot of ways for him being shot. Because if you call someone Hitler, if you dehumanize another human being, you are setting them up. What do you think Hitler did to the Jews? You dehumanize other people, and then when they're killed, it's not such a big deal, is it? You dehumanize a baby by calling it a fetus. Then you kill the fetus, and it sounds okay because the word is fetus. It's not a human being. So there's a lot of wordplay going on, but they've demonized Donald Trump. And so if this demon, so-called demon, does somehow get into office, they'll say, oh, he cheated because it looked kind of close to begin with. They must have cheated because how could a guy like that get in office? And they're going to go crazy. So Trump is going to have his hands full. And I'm just saying to you out there, hopefully, I would suggest you vote for Trump strongly, just for your own country's sake. But I would just say, no matter what happens, be prepared. be prepared. Just know, I just keep your eyes open. You don't want to be like, I remember back in, it was the Rodney King riots down in LA. We had this truck driver named Reginald Denny who came through in a truck. Didn't even know that the verdict had just happened. I think it was the Rodney King riots. Yeah. And I think the first time that they went after the cops and they didn't get, the people in the streets didn't get the verdict that they wanted, they started rioting. And Reginald Denny was just some white dude that happened to be in the wrong place at the right time, was driving his truck through South Central LA. They call it South LA now. Change the name, right? They always try to change the name to change the reality. And they pulled this guy out of his truck and stomped him and kicked him like his head was a football. Just cracked his skull in a bunch of places. He had to have surgeries, and it was a real mess. But don't be the Reginald Denny who is driving through South Central after a major a case was just decided, and you were listening to rock and roll music on your radio instead of maybe listening to the news or whatever, or just paying attention as you're driving through town. So don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Instead, be as prepared as you can. Help out during the elections if you can. Be a poll watcher. Work the polls if you can. Get information out there. If you see funny stuff going on, report it. We haven't done the work we should have done, but we got to do the best we can right now. So do the best you can. Pray, more importantly than anything, pray for America. Pray for peace, of course, and pray for America. All right, I'll do a couple more comments and we're going to get out of here, guys. Let's see. Tulsi is supposedly for abortion and gun control. Gun control too. Interesting. I didn't know that. Mike Jones. Hey, Mike, glad you're here. You mean liberalism is a mental disorder? Somebody said something is a mental disorder. Michael Savage used to famously say, I think that's what he said, right? Liberalism is a mental disorder. That was a Michael Savage quote. Nobody sticks base. Nobody's perfect, but Trump was one of the best, if not the best POTUS we ever had. He was great in terms of what he did. I mean, personally, my favorite ever in my lifetime was Ronald Reagan because of the spirit and the kind of, I think he just had more of a purity of spirit in a sense. That's my opinion. Some people are going to disagree, but I think that it's not just what you do, the spirit comes through too. And Trump has a good fighter spirit too. I'm not saying that. I just think that there was something really, really special about Reagan in his spirit. And that kind of permeates through the whole country. It really does. I think that's one of the things that Vivek has been talking about a lot, really kind of reinvigorating the spirit of America. He's had some great ones. I could show some videos on that sometime. I just saw some videos on him just going to the DNC convention. He took on Van Jones and got Van Jones to apologize for calling, he called Vivek a racist kind of guy, a demagogue, I think he called him. And he got Van Jones to apologize, which was great. And Vivek also went right into where the leftist, hardcore leftist communist people were, the commies there, the young commies. He went in there and started debating with them. And he finally had to be escorted out of there because they're dangerous people. They don't want to debate. They want to kill. All right. Democrats or Demorats. Yeah. All right. Anyway, guys, thanks for being here. Really enjoyed you being here. I did it on short notice. I didn't tell a lot of people necessarily about it. I just didn't, I kind of did this whole thing on short notice. I'm thinking about doing doing some, what do you call, panel stuff again soon on some issues. Maybe doing some of those soon. We'll see. Those are a lot of fun too. But I just kind of wanted to get some stuff off my chest and just kind of give that warning at this point of where we are in history right now. So God be with us and God be with you guys, and everybody have a good night. Enjoy your weekend.